Hey everyone, welcome to Kenzo Code Play, where we unlock code one key at a time. I'm Kenzo, and on this channel we dive into coding projects and explore the world of programming. Whether you're into Python, JavaScript, React, or React Native, you're in the right place. So grab your editor and let's get coding. This is what we will be building today, a fully functional calculator from scratch using React. We'll focus on creating clean, reusable components and managing state effectively without relying on any external libraries. Let's get started. So first of all, we're gonna start with creating the project, the React project. As you can see, I'm already in the directory of whatever you can save it, in any other directory that you want. For my YouTube videos, I have a directory for all the projects, and this is where I'll be saving most of all of my projects. So we'll start by saying npx create React, if I can spell it right, Kenzo React calculator. So that will generate the project, and I'll get back to you once it's done. So as you can see, the project has been generated, and what we want to do next is change into the directory. So Kenzo React project, and we just clear the terminal. Once we've done that, we wanna do npm start, which will start the project or open it in the browser. As you can see, the project is open in the browser, and it's just welcome from React. So from here onwards, what we need to do is open VS Code. I already have VS Code open, so I'll just open the project. So we have this, and we'll just open it in VS Code. You can use any code editor you want, or any IDE, and it doesn't really matter what IDE you prefer. I just prefer VS Code. And then we want to first start in app, and maybe just get rid of everything now, and then also in maybe just not everything, and then also in the CSS, app.css, and you just want to get rid of all the CSS in there as well. So for the app itself, what we're gonna start with, just giving it the right class name, and then using display. So we'll have two other components. We'll have button and display. So let's start maybe by doing that. Let's create the two other components. So how you do that is you just create a folder, and I'm just going to call it components. Doesn't really matter what you call it. And then we'll just create the packages themselves. So we want display JS, and we also want button JS. And then we'll go back to the app. So what we want to do right now is just rename the class name from app to calculator, and then we'll just create a few more tags, HTML tags, whatever you want to call them, and then yeah, let's get to that. So we'll have calculator there, and what we also need is we wanna use map instead of like having to manually type out all the buttons there. We want to use map actually. We want to use map to map through maybe four of the buttons, and then we'll just set 4 of the buttons there and then map through all of them. Let's do that. Maybe let's just make sure that our app is running correctly. So as you can see, it's just an empty app, and then we can literally just put h1. I mean, if you are not sure, hello world, and it will display hello world there. So for now, what we want to do next is create the button and display components. So let's start with display. For display, what we want is just to have we just want to have a component that just takes in an input of maybe, yeah, just an input, and then it will display that input, otherwise it will just display 0. So how we're gonna do that is we're gonna first define display, and then we'll take in the input, just call it input, the parameter, and then we want to return a div and give it the class name display. So this is the main div. And then what we want is to just display the input, otherwise just display 0. So how we're gonna do that is we're gonna say input, otherwise, or just give me 0. What's important is that we also export the component so that it's accessible in app.js. So we'll export default display, and we also need to import React. So import React from React, and then with this now we can call display from here. So we can just say display and then just give it the input. We'll define input afterwards, so maybe let's start by defining input. So we'll say constant input set input. Is equal to use state. So this is the default use state, and then we'll just say it's a empty string. So instead of hello world, we wanna now call display. So display, and then input is equal to input. Let's take a look at the thing. So it's saying use state is undefined and display is undefined. That's because we haven't imported them as of yet. So you can input them like by saying input React. We'll start with React, and then we'll say use state input display from there onwards. Input, import display, and then obviously it will manually take display. And then, so right now we are not using set input, we're just giving it the input without setting it. So if we take a look, it's just displaying the 0, which is the default if input is not defined. And then after that, we wanna now work on the button. So the button is pretty simple as well. So it will just be a button and a React button, and then we'll just give it a specific class name, and then on click we wanna do something. And then, so for the parameters we'll be taking in value and then on click as well, so we can handle the on click on the button itself, and then the value will be the value of the number that was clicked, or the operator that was clicked, plus, minus, times, divide, or whatever that was clicked at the moment. We'll take that and then display it. And then yeah, let's start with that. Maybe let's start with importing React first, and then we'll say constant button is equal to what will we be taking in? We'll be taking in the value, and then we'll be taking in on click, and then what we will return is we will return a button, and then we'll just give it a simple class name. Maybe here I use the capital letter. Let me just make sure I keep the thing friendly, and and then on click we want to use the on click. So instead of using on click is equal to the on click that we imported, and then we just want to give it the value. Reason we are giving it the value obviously is so it can work with the value, and then we just want to display the value in the button. What else? Yeah, I think we need to export button. So we can call it here. Like I said previously, we are going to be let's just import button first. We are going to be using map just to simplify the code and keep it more cleaner. So what we want to do, first of all, let's just figure out how we want to display our buttons. And then a calculator obviously has the cancel, which just clears everything, the C, which just clears everything, and then it has I don't think it's in starts with 1. Yeah, so it must start with maybe 7, 8, 9, and then 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 0, and then comma equal to, and then the other operators on the right hand side. So how we're going to do that is we're going to say maybe 7, 8, 9, we'll have 7, 8, 9. What's the first operator? I'm not even sure. Let's just say divide, division. Let's start with division. We can use this division, or we can call the symbol itself. So for myself, just because I'm using Linux, how I'd call the division is, I'd say I'd hold Control, then Shift, then U, and then 00 F7. I think, yes, perfect. So that's how it calls the division symbol. And then what's next? 4, 5, 6, and then multiply, I'm assuming. Let's just do this. So we want to display at least 4 for each row. So 4, 5, 6, and then multiply, and then what's next? 3, 1, 2, 3, or 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, and then subtraction, 3, 2, 1, and then obviously your calculator also has 0, so you have to put that in. So 0, and then what? Comma, equal to, and then yeah, 0, and then equal to, and then addition. Oh, I also forgot something else. Since the clear should be at the top, what we can also do is we can I don't know how to do this. I mean, we can just not put anything here, and then just put a capital letter C here, or just to make things a bit simpler, we can call button itself, and then maybe just call it 4 times individually, and then for the last one we on click, instead of handle click, we will, instead of, like, you know, the button handling the click itself, we'll just have a function to clear the entire input. Let's do that rather. So call button. Before we do that, maybe let's have these ones display. So how we're going to do that is we are going to put them in curly braces and then try to map them out, and then yeah, let's do that. So curly braces, and then obviously dot map, we are trying to map this out, and then we want to take in the value, and then so I'll just call it value, and then we'll say we'll now call the button button, and then obviously we'll give it the value, and then the on click. Value, it's complaining. We'll give it the value because it wants value as a parameter, and we'll give it val, and then the on click, we'll give it, should we give it something? Yeah, let's handle click, and then we'll see what happens. Obviously we don't have this defined as of yet, so we have to define it. We'll have to define the handle click function. So const handle click is equal to, it will take in the, what will it take in? It will take in the value, and then what will we do? We'll just say, how should we handle this? So obviously the value needs to somehow edit the input. So we're gonna have to use set input, and then how are we going to use set input? We'll just take in the current input. Since it's a string, we wanna make sure it displays obviously from the first input left to right, and then the first input should be on the left, always on the left, and then right should be the last input we have, or operator we have. I mean, we can say plus value, né? Yeah, I think so, plus value. Let's just try it out and see. So what we'll do now is we'll just copy this, just make sure we are handling it in all these other places. I'm sorry if I'm too fast. Just feel free to pause the video at any time, and yeah. So yeah, let's just see if we have, yeah, perfect. So now it's displaying all the values, and as you can see, it's not only just displaying all the values, it's also putting it from left to right, or inputting it from left to right in the input. Yeah, I thought as much. So we didn't handle the equal one. So for the last map, we are going to have to maybe handle it a bit differently. How are we going to do that? So we can just say if the value is equal to, if val is equal to the equal sign, then we wanna call another function instead of the handle click, so it doesn't input it on the input, or edit on the input, and takes the input and then adds it to get or subtracts it or handles the input itself. Let me see. How can we do that? So we can start by having that condition val is equal to the equal sign. Then what we want to do is do this, otherwise do that. So what the question mark says is it's just handling the condition. So this will handle the condition. It will say if value is equal to the equal sign, then do this, otherwise this is the or, else just do whatever follows, which is the handle click. So for this one, we're gonna have to do another custom button, but then obviously for the on click button, instead of giving it the handle click, we'll have to give it another function that we have to create. So maybe let's do that. Button, no, not the small button. Value will always be equal to val, and then the on click will be equal to, let's call it handle equal, yeah. Let's take this, let's handle that. Is equal to, obviously the button will also give it back its it will give give the value back. I'm assuming, yeah, it will give the value back, and then we'll just handle that. We don't even need to take it in. We don't need to take in any parameters at this point. Honestly, we don't need to take in any parameters, as input is already in the app itself, and then obviously we know by the time we call equal, we should be adding everything, or rather handling the equation in the input. So let's not add anything. And then what we want to do is, now we want to handle the equation. How are we going to do that? We'll set the input, use set input. We already setting the input is equal to value. Yeah, but yeah. So what we want is, obviously, after adding all of these and then calling the equal sign, after doing all of that and then calling the equal sign, we want the equation, what the equation equals to be displayed in the input as well. So we don't want to create another thing for the equation itself. So maybe let's set input, but yeah, set input. Maybe let's try and wrap this in a try and catch. Try and then catch, error, and then for the catch we just wanna set input so the user knows there's an error. Into error if they give us an equation that doesn't add up, or yeah, we're just gonna display error on the input part. And then for the try we wanna then set input. Now we are working on the equation itself. So what will happen is that obviously the user will use all of these other buttons and then put in an equation, and then once they press the equal sign, it will call the handle equal, and then once it calls handle equal, we want to then try and set the input to the equal, or the equation itself, or the answer of the equation. For this, I don't want to complicate it, so I'm just gonna use eval. So eval, so as you can see, it says a string value that contains valid JavaScript code, evaluates JavaScript code and then executes it. So what it does is, if we have something like 2 plus 2, it will evaluate this and then use math to add the 2 and the 2 together, and then if it has a deduction there, it will try and deduct. So basically it will use math to evaluate the string and then give us the final thing. I mean, we can try and complicate it and go with conditions or if statements, but I feel like that would be too long. And then what we want to do is we wanna just give it the input. Yeah, so what it will do is it will set the input, and then it will say evaluate the input, and then so once it evaluates the input, it will set the input to the evaluated input. That sounded confusing for a second there. Let's just reload the page. Let's say 7 plus 3 and use the equal sign. There we go. There we go. And then now we don't have that clear button. We clearly need the clear button. We'll implement it just now. And then 7 times 2, 14. clearly it works. I'm not sure about the multiplication. So since obviously JavaScript or React does not understand this symbol as a multiplication, obviously we need a slash. So it will most likely not evaluate this or give us an error. Let's try that out. 2 divided by 2. Just keeping it simple. Perfect. At least the try and catch is working. So it's catching an error and it's also displaying the error. So what we want now is to handle when we use division. So how do we do that? I mean, we can simply replace the sign, the division sign symbol, with just is it forward slash or backslash or whatever it is, with the right division sign that JavaScript will understand. Let's do that. Let's use let, by the way. So updated input is equal to, so input dot replace, we'll use replace to replace the current division. So for me, since it's Linux, I just hold Control Shift and then U and then 00 F7, and then will give me the division symbol. And then what we'll do, so if you can read here, it says passes and a string replaces the value with the replace symbol replace on blah blah blah. This method is expected to implement its own replacement algorithm. So what it will do is it will search the entire string and try to replace the first value with the second value. So the second value should be this. And then let's try it out right now. Oh, we didn't call this. So we should be, instead of now evaluating the input, we'll be evaluating the updated input. So if we are not using multiplication at any point in our equation, it will not, this will not matter. It will still try and replace the division sign with the correct division sign that JavaScript will understand. But obviously if it doesn't exist in the input, it will not find it and it will not replace it at all. So let's try that. 8 divided by 2 is equal to 4. Perfect. Plus 6. Perfect. So as you can see, it also continues on the current equation. So if the answer of the previous equation is equal to 10, then we can add on to that, or multiply or divide or subtract from that at any given time. Let's now focus on the clear button because it's giving me a headache. It's giving me a headache. How did I say we are going to handle this? I don't know, man. Let's just put it in. Let's just use a simple button that we created. So button, like doing this. And then obviously the button takes in a value, and then what will our value be? I'm not so sure as of yet. Let's just give it C. Obviously C will be what we want to display at the current moment. So let's just give it a string of C, man. And then it will take in also an on click, and then for now we have not implemented the clear. I mean, it's pretty easy to implement. I mean, we just clear the input and just make it equal to nothing at the same time. Yeah, we just make it equal to nothing, or an empty string rather, and then obviously that will then evaluate, or rather be 0 on the display. So let's implement that logic first. Oh yeah, let's just handle clear, and then let's implement the handle clear. Is equal to, we don't need to take in any input at this time, so set input is equal to set input to just an empty string, right? Yes, if I can type correctly. And then let's see, 1 2 3, and then clear, perfect. And then 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2 clear, perfect. It works, the clear works perfectly. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward implementation of the logic. And then, I mean, I feel like it's working now, and I feel like it's working, but obviously since we have 4 buttons displaying on each row, obviously for now it's just displaying on one single row since we haven't implemented any styling. Since we have the buttons displaying on each row, and then we have 4 buttons displaying on each row, and then we have what, 1 2 3 4 columns, and then obviously this C button, it's gonna be the only one on its row, which might kind of look weird. I think let's just add, yeah, for just for my own set. No, let's implement the styling first, and then we'll come look at the thingy first. Afterwards we'll come look at the clear afterwards. So for the styling, what do we have? We have this calculator, this class name calculator for now. And then what do we want to do with that class name? For now, nothing as of yet. Do we wanna, yeah, maybe we wanna style it and put it in the middle, you know, give it a dark nyana background, and then yeah, let's do that. But first of all, one thing I'm noticing is that we have the input and we have the buttons in the same div. I mean, it could be untidy at some point, so maybe let's clean this up and just create a container. We'll just give it the class name buttons. Capital letter, should I no, man, let's just keep it clean, since all of these other ones shouldn't be using capital letters anyways. And then we can now take all of these and then put them in the div. So all of the buttons, including that clear button, will be in the buttons div, and then the input will just be displaying on the calculator div or container itself. And then for the app, let's style the app now. Let's style the app, man. Let's go to the fun part. This is the fun part for everyone, not for me though. First of all, what's the first container we have? We have calculator. Let's start with that. And let's start with the background. You know, I usually start with the background color, man. That kind of gives me an idea of what I am doing and all of that, and how far I'm going. Let's start with the background color. Let's just set it at black, man. Let's see exactly, it's black now. Now we can't see the input. So So let's go on to maybe styling it to be dealing with the width, the margin, borders, and padding, and all of that. So for now, let's just set the width to 300 pixels, and then we'll set the margin. So what we want is for it to be centered always. Doesn't matter what the device we are viewing it from is. So we want it to be responsive and to be centered at the center of the screen always. So we'll say maybe margin on the top will always be 50, top and bottom 50 pixels, and then left and right we'll just set it to auto. And then the border, do we need a border? Maybe, yeah, maybe yes, maybe let's go with the border, and then we'll set it to 1 pixel for now, solid. And then what color should we go for? Grayish color, so 333 maybe. And then padding will be like 20 pixels, I guess. I mean, you can style it however way you want. The calculator is now functional. It's now almost fully functional. You can style it however way you want, and then obviously the input is not visible for now. So maybe let's set the color for all the text to just white. Perfect. Now you can see the calculator div is there, and you know, there's a 50 padding on top, and then it's automatically setting it on to be centered. I mean, we could use flexbox and try and center it, contain it to the center, justify it to the center just to center it, but that tends to be a headache when you're trying to be responsive. What do we do now? I mean, it's looking perfect. I mean, now we can deal with the input and then the buttons later on. Let's deal with the input and just make sure the input is kind of highlighted at some point. Yeah, let's just highlight the input. So how do we deal with the input? So we have this class name display for the input. We can call that, and then let's set the width to about, let's try 90% for now. We don't want it to fill the entire, you know, width of the calculator. 90%. And then the background color, like I said, it's always nice to start with the background color. Let's set it, instead of that gray we use, let's use 222 for now. There's almost the same shade of gray, but a little bit, you know. And then what we also want, and I don't like the fact that the 0 is displaying on the left hand side. Maybe let's try and display it on the right hand side. So we'll use text align for that. Text align right, and then as you can see now the input is on the right hand side, is justified to the right. And then what we can do now is, I mean, do we really need to? We can set the color. I mean, let's just leave it as it is for now, because it's white after all and it's clearly visible. Let's set the font size to 24 pixels, and then padding, and then margin also. Padding, let's set the padding to 10 pixels, and then margin, which margin do we wanna? Let's just deal with the bottom margin for now, because yeah, give it a little bit space. Margin bottom, let's also set that to 10 pixels. So you can see now there's a bit of a margin here between the buttons and the input itself. It's no longer, you know, congested. Now let's deal with the buttons. How are we going to deal with the buttons, man? buttons are going to give me sleepless nights. So let's just take the class name and then obviously put it in. And then first thing, let's start with oh wait. Don't we have a buttons div? Yeah, we have a buttons div. Let's start with that first of all. Let's start with that instead of the button itself. And then the buttons div, what we want is for it to display obviously in a grid of four buttons for each row, and then obviously, yeah, let's try that out. 4 buttons for each row. So we'll say display grid, and then now we wanna use the grid template. Grid template columns, and then how are we going to do this? So we can just use repeat, man. Repeat for, and then fr. Let's see how it looks. It's not looking good, man. I missed something here, man. So as you can see now, it's displaying 4 buttons for each row, which is kind of cute. But we don't want this displaying. We want it displaying on its own row. Hence we needed those other buttons, man. It's just man. Let's just paste these 4 other buttons. And then for this, we wanna handle do nothing, because obviously it's buttons that do nothing. They're just placeholder buttons, and then we'll copy that do nothing define it here, handle do nothing is equal to we are doing nothing. Yeah, it will do nothing obviously. Let's take a look, man. See, perfect. Now we have buttons that do absolutely nothing, which make sure that the clear is on its own row and all these other rows are displayed accordingly. What were we doing? We were dealing with the styling. Now let's deal with the styling. Maybe let's put some gap there. Gap is equal to 10 pixels. Yeah, perfect. So now you see we have a gap that's separating all these other buttons for each row. Maybe for now, the input, I don't like that it's not displaying like up until the edge of the buttons. So let's, instead of 90, let's try 95. A bit too much. 93. Let's try 93 rather, maybe. Yeah, perfect. Hopefully it's also responsive. Now that we are done with the buttons div, now we can individually deal with the buttons. So maybe add a hover and all of that, just the fancy stuff. We are done with this thing actually, just making it a bit, cleaner and fancy. So let's start with the background color. A grayish background color would be nice. Let's try 444 for this time. Yeah, it's perfect actually. And then obviously we wanna maybe have some padding and font size, and then border, we should cancel that out. And then try the color. Let's just plain white. Perfect. Border, we don't want any border. And then font size, what are we going for? Let's go for 18 pixels. Perfect. Yeah, it looks cute now that there are no borders, man. And then we want to add some padding, man. I feel like the buttons are too small, they're too squashed in. And then yeah, padding, and then it's just, what else? Padding. What padding? Maybe 20 pixels. Just make it a bit bigger, man. Looks a bit too big, but it's fine. It looks great, actually. It looks good, actually. And then we wanna add a cursor, so pointer. So now when we hover on the buttons, the cursor will change to a pointer, showing that it's a clickable button, you see. And then obviously we wanna now add the on hover. And then for that we just wanna change the background color. Can we change anything else? I don't think so, man. Let's just make it a lighter gray. How much lighter though? It's not that light. Let's try 888. It looks perfect, guys. It looks absolutely perfect. Perfect. It works perfect as well. Let's try this. 1.5 times 2. What? Yes. It works perfectly. Times 5. Yes. Divided by 3. Yes. Times 4. Perfect. 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 Minus 2.25. 17.25. Perfect, man. Guys, I don't have anything else to add here, man. If you want to add anything else, I mean, we could always, maybe instead of having clear here or just empty buttons, we could add on top of these buttons, we could add a percentage, we could add a delete button, so that will just, if we have 1 2 3, it will just maybe delete the 3 or the last number that we input in. We'll see how we add on to this, but for now, guys, this video is already long enough. So this is what we have, guys, and I'm happy with it. We'll see how we add onto this. Thank you for your time, and thank you for giving me your attention. Please like and subscribe like the video and subscribe onto the channel. Hit those buttons, guys. I really need your support, and thank you.